Greetings and welcome to Refuge Depot. And today we're going to be talking about a serious issue, and we're going to be discussing the national elections and the possibility of chaos, civil unrest, or even anarchy. And hopefully, we can also go ahead and break those terms down. Before we do that, I just want to play this clip of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. As you know, I am a follower of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the Nation of Islam, and I'm joined by two individuals who are not in the Nation of Islam. So you may have varying views as we do these programs, but that's all right. One of the things that we do want to say as a disclaimer is that this show is intended for information, but this is, you have to move at your own discretion as far as the path that you want to go down. But we do advise you to look into the material and the research and the items that we suggest. And so, with that, let's go ahead and play this clip, and then we'll get right on into the program. All right.
Better start storing something in your houses. And I'm not talking about guns. I'm talking about food that's non-perishable. Because this thing is falling and falling fast. And when your people can't find jobs and can't have money, murder and bloodshed will be all in the streets. You're gonna have to learn emergency management. You don't know how to protect your life. You don't know what to do when disaster strikes. If Haiti had been more prepared, lives could have been saved. Your day and mine here is coming.
Yes, prepare. So with that, I want to go ahead and I'll first bring on Mr. Sanford Whitlow. And if you could introduce yourself and let people know just a little bit about you.
All right, Sanford Whitlow. I own a company called Personal Defense Incorporated. Was established in 2003. I'm a former law enforcement officer. I still train law enforcement. I teach firearms, unarmed self-defense. I was a hostage negotiator for about 13 years, cultural diversity instructor trainer, unarmed self-defense instructor for the state of Ohio. So I got a pretty extensive background in self-protection. I do a lot of private and group lessons when it comes to firearm safety and firearm training, um, and safety and awareness training, um, and all around good guy.
All right. Those are some good credentials, especially for the topic that we're going to be talking about tonight. And so I want to bring on Mr. Aaron Olinger, and we'll bring him right on. And if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm about 67 years old. I've seen a lot of this world. My training in disaster preparedness started when I was 4 years old. My parents, one grew up in Ohio, the other one grew up in Kentucky. They both grew up on farms. They grew up under the Great Depression. They always told me if something happened once, it could happen again. And they wanted me to be prepared for any adverse thing that I'd face. So over the years, up till I was about 20, I studied basically under my parents, learning gardening, learning self-defense, learning how to shoot guns, archery, throw knives, the works. And now that I've gotten older and they're no longer here, about 2 to 3 times a year, I'll take in seminars or I'll take classes. I even travel to where there's classes that I can take on water purification, gardening, any sort of thing, how to heat your home in an emergency, anything that I can learn right now to make me more of a disaster preparedness specialist. And I try to pass those skills on to other people. So I'll
All
stop
right.
there, Steve.
No, that's good. Thank you. And so before we get into our topic, I just want to ask you all to in a few words, give me an understanding of why we should begin to um, prepare our homes to be a place where we may have to shelter in place or prepare to evacuate with a to-go bag. Just all of this, can you help us to understand? And we'll start with you first, Brother Aaron.
Okay. Right now, I say look back to 2020 or 2019. Ask yourself, have things gotten better or progressively gotten worse? How's the weather been? At any point in time, there's over 300 storms or disasters that are occurring around the world at this time that's bringing disasters into people's lives. And actually, there's not a worldwide disaster culture. There's not even a disaster culture in the United States right now. And
Mm,
that's one of the problems that has so many people in need of help. I mean, and as far as sheltering in place, I mean, you have different reasons why you want to do that. I mean, number one is going to be you can store more of your preps in your home. As soon as you leave your home, you actually become homeless and you're
mm,
out there trying to survive in the wild. You can amass 2 or 3 years worth of supplies inside your house that would give you a chance to be able to survive within your home. Then there's the familiarity of it. You're familiar with your home, any family members that stay there, the morale is going to be higher if they're living inside the property. There's going to be less stress if they're staying inside that property than they would be if they're living out, going vacant house, or living in a tent, being exposed to the wild. Your home will also hold a certain amount of heat inside of it, and it's going to keep the inclement weather off your head. And that goes a long ways right there that you can't say. And then being able to know your neighbors, knowing if you guys have got a community built where you will support one another, that's going to be of great use. And then your loved ones, and in case of an emergency or whatever, that's going to give them a place to know where they can find you. Or your home might be the designated rally point that some of your family members are going to run to when there's trouble.
mm.
So I would say there that those will be good reasons to be able to shelter in place. But I'll stop there for right now, Steve.
Excellent, excellent. And Mr. Whitlow, yes, sir. Can you give us your understanding of why we should begin to prepare our homes?
Well, the bottom line is we've in a society that's not one socially accepting of you being different. So that's something people never talk about. I don't think we've ever had a time in my lifetime where a difference of opinion can cause you harm. So
Mm,
yeah, and people never talk about that. So the fact that you may publicly talk about or display how you feel about certain things in society now or a political party, anything that can cause people to want to cause you duress and harm. With that being said, with the economical structure we got going right now, and a
mm,
dollar not going as far as it used to go, that puts everybody in a place of vulnerability if you appear to other people to have certain things or resources that some people may not have. So, with that being said, I think it's
mm,
essential now that you use good sense and put yourself in a position where you and your family and your friends or whomever you build that community with, that you have a contingency plan to offer yourself the ability to be safe and maintain that kind of safeness in case anything would happen. As times
mhm,
have changed, and we don't know what's going to happen next. We don't know where it's going to go. And Aaron said something earlier. History does repeat itself. So if
mhm,
history repeats itself, we may be in a position where we may have mild civil unrest, and I'll call it mild because it may not be something that's all out, or it may go to the extreme. So being prepared for that, and your home being the place that you can hunker down because you know your home. Hopefully, you know your environment. Hopefully, you have awareness within your home that you can make yourself safe even in micro spaces within your home. So
Mm.
I think we just entered a different time, and be ready so you don't have to get ready.
Right, right. Okay. Thank you for that. That's excellent. And so I wanted to go ahead and well, let me give you my take on it, and then I wanted to read this. My fault. Took me off the screen. I'll read this article after I just say this. So in the Nation of Islam, of course, we believe that this is all what we see is not just political, but we believe that it's prophetic. That you see the fall of America. We believe that when you read in the scriptures where it says, know of a surety, Abraham, that your seed will go into a strange land among strange people and they'll be inflicted for 400 years. Uh, and then after that, God will come and he will judge that nation. We believe that that nation is none other than United States of America, and that the children of Israel are none other than the black man and black woman, and that right on the back of your dollar, you have a pyramid. Right on the back of your dollar, you have an eagle, which is a in the family of vultures. And the scripture says where the eagles where the eagles are gathered, there will the carcass be. The carcass is something that which was once alive but is now dead. And so when we look at the black man and black woman, we were once alive but being robbed of name, language, religion, culture, robbed of the essence of knowing who we are and whose we are, that we are that carcass that the scriptures talk about. So, to sum that all up, this is the time of separation, as we read in the scriptures with Moses and the children of Israel. And it's something that, we're going to just be talking about the national elections. But think about this, one of the last plagues was the plague of death. And who did it touch? It touched the firstborn. And what do we see going on increasing in America? But the increasing in America is what's called walking pneumonia or whooping cough. But that is just the beginning of sorrows, as the scripture says. But we'll just go right on into talking some more. So let me go ahead and bring you all back in. And I wanted to just read some of this article from the final call, and then we'll get right on into our topic of discussion today. And I would, let me bring it up. I would advise everyone, because there's been a number of articles in the final call talking about civil unrest, but this is one of them. And I'm going to just start off in about the middle part of the article where it says, and let me try to bring it up to where it is on the full screen. And I'll go ahead and just read just a little bit about what this article is saying. Oh, hold on, excuse me. All right, here it goes. It says, the president's support of the genocide unfolding in Gaza is not helping his case. Several poll results indicate that the younger Americans between the ages of 18 and 34 are more critical of Israel and Biden's support of Israel. The anger of young people has manifested through campus protests at colleges and universities across the country. Students are demanding their institutions stop supporting Israel and stop doing business with and accepting money from companies aligned with Israel. I think this is the first time in history we've seen a concentrated resistance on behalf of the Palestinian people. I think time is running out for there not to be an independent Palestinian state and justice for the Palestinian people. This is a generational shift. remarked Reverend Mark Thompson, member of the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, in Cobra, and host of Make It Plain podcast, said to the final call. A Gallup poll from earlier in this year speaks to record low dissatisfaction with the way democracy is working in the US. Only 28% of US adults are satisfied. Americans are preparing to elect the next president at a time when they are less happy about the state of US democracy than at any point in the last 40 years. In 2024 election, the 2024 election is expected to match a historical unpopular incumbent president with a former president who voters previously rejected for a second term. Gallup poll analysts says amid the tight presidential race and overall dissatisfaction, Republicans continue to engage in voter suppression tactics. The Voter Rights Act itself has been whittled away over the years. Efforts to attack voting rights have been occurring all over the country. Some Black voters operate in states that do not have fair legislative districts. In at least 7 states, Blacks and non white voters have been uh, deprived of the right to fight unfair district discrimination voting laws, according to analysts by Democracy Docket, a platform covering the voting rights in elections. It says, and this is, I'll end it up here, or start here. It says the national division of the country has led to talks of succession and civil war. A recent survey by Rasmussen reports revealed that 41% of voters they polled believe that the country is likely to experience a second civil war within the next 5 years. The poll surveyed 1,105 voters in April. Nearly 25% of Americans said they would support their state succeeding, according to a February poll by YouGov. The company surveyed over 35,000 US adults on the topic of succession. The poll found that Alaska, Texas, California are among the top states whose residents are most likely to support succession. Some states are already paving the way. In late April, the Louisiana Supreme Court approved plans for white residents in Baton Rouge community to break off and form their own city. Representative what's her name? Major Taylor Greene has been proposing succession for the last few years. In September 2023, she posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, that the states should consider succeeding from the Union. In 2021, she spoke of a national divorce that she referenced again in February 2023, posted on X. And I'll stop right there. I want to get into a little bit more later on, but with that, um, yeah, we're just talking about major dissatisfaction that's occurring in America. And now we have these elections, which the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said are the most pivotal because the president who was elected this time will determine the course that America goes in. And so, with that, um, let's just open it up. If you all want to comment on these national elections and why they're so why it's so explosive as far as uh, the possibility of civil war or chaos breaking out. And either of you can go first.
Okay,
Well,
I would like to present something here.
Sure. Okay, I'll
Bring it
go ahead and put
over.
that up too. I went ahead. There you go.
All right. That's a directive that came out, DOD, Department of Defense Directive. It became effective on September 27th of 2024. Now, the rumor is that it allows for U.S. military to use lethal force against U.S. citizens.
Mm,
And what I would like to do at this point is read to you what the definition under that bill of lethal force was going to be considered to be.
mhm,
And let's see, that is the assistance in responding with assets with potential lethality or any situation in which it is a reasonable, foreseeable that providing the requested assistance may involve the use of force that is likely to result in lethal force, including
mm,
death or serious bodily injury. It also includes all support to civilian law enforcement officials in situations where a confrontation between civilian law enforcement and civilian individuals or groups is reasonably anticipated. Now, to be fair, I got to present both sides of this. Now, on October 24th, the Pentagon said that that wasn't the case. The Pentagon issued a rare statement. They rarely try to disavow rumors, but they denied the falsehood about troops allowed to use force during the election. Now, that's the key word, force during the election. That's not what the rumor was that got put out. It was that the force would be used afterwards. Now, the use of force by federal troops on U.S. soil and against U.S. civilians is against the law. That's number one. It
right.
is also outlined in something called Posse Comitatus Act. Now, that was
Mm,
signed into effect by Rutherford B. Hayes, who was the President of the United States on June 18, 1878. It clearly states that, that it's a federal law that limits the powers of the federal government in use of federal troops to enforce domestic policy within the United States. Now, that Department of Defense directive dealt a lot with intelligence, and according to what the Pentagon says, defense intelligence personnel can provide intelligence, analysis, training, equipment, and even weapons to civilian authorities. But the question I asked is, but what if civil authorities were outnumbered and asked for assistance from the military?
mm,
What would happen at that point? Because we all have to
right,
understand one thing, and that is the U.S. population outnumbers the local authorities. It also outnumbers the National Guard. And to be in all honesty, it outnumbers the amount of people that we currently have in the military. So if you have civil unrest on that level, and as you expressed in the article that you read, and the media is really pushing this civil war crap, which that kind
mm,
of angers me that they would push that.
mm,
If it was on that level, the military would have to come in to try to put that down. And
right.
by the definition of the use of force, it would appear to me that they'd be cleared to use lethal force right off the rip. I mean, there wouldn't be no rules of engagement where I got to call ahead and ask for permission. Permission's already been granted. It's already been documented out. Now, did it come out at this time for the purpose of putting down potential unrest? Don't know. To be fair, I looked into it. This Department of Defense directive is updated about every 5 to maybe 10 years. It gets updated. And it was due for an update at this time. This could be a total coincidence that this came out at this time.
Mm,
But the Pentagon denies that the use of force is going to be during the election. But my question is, if either side starts to riot or wants to fight or whatever, I realize National Guard be called up because they said that we will not know who the president is until 4 days later after the election is done. which I don't understand the wait unless you need 72 hours to put the National Guard in place. And when the
Mm,
fighting breaks out or the riot breaks out, will it be limited to the major cities, or is it going to be all across the board? Trouble could be everywhere.
mhm.
So, I mean, the possibility of terror acts, riots, civil war. I mean, it's hanging out there right now, and
Right.
people are fed up with this inflation. They're just fed up with the irresponsibility of how our money's being managed by our government officials right now. You know,
Mhm.
what will people do? Have they reached a breaking point? I don't
Right.
know, but I'm gonna stop there
Yeah.
in case you guys want to interject anything.
No, I definitely agree with everything you just said. And somebody asked me the question, they said if the things are so bad, why haven't, people rioted as of yet? And I told them, I said, well, when you look at history, usually the people don't riot until they're like that commercial where you see the people and they're not themselves and they take a bite out of that candy bar and they call it hangry. So usually when people's stomachs begin to get empty, there's a chemical that's produced that does make you angry. And if we look at, for instance, like the Arab Spring, or if we looked in the history where the Queen said, let them eat cake, usually revolution kicks off as soon as people's stomachs are hungry. And this is why, I wrote this book and I'll put it up here and I want people to seriously look at getting it. And it's called The Inescapable Famine. And up here you can see the different things that are causing it: drought, insect die off, civil unrest, supply chain disruption, um, uh, inflation. There are so many things, and these were separate things that happened in the past, but these are all culminating right now on America. What America is not talking about is how this extreme weather is destroying the ability of farmers to produce food. They're not talking about how these supply chain disruptions have caused your food to be inflated, food inflation. And on top of food inflation, you got shrinkflation, where when you buy the food, you're getting less even of what you're purchasing at the store. So yeah, I think that this is something that, like you're saying, this is the American people are so dissatisfied. And just to touch a little bit on it, look at what's going on with the Boeing strike, right? The Boeing, those who are striking want a pension. They want a lot of things that were taken away from the American people. And I believe cause the American people to literally be sold out by the corporations for what you could call corporatism, where corporations really run the government that we have right now, and the little man is being literally strangled to death. But um, brother, brother Whitlow, what you have to say about that?
Well, I think all the things you guys have mentioned are definitely factors. Where I look at some things maybe a little different. One, I have to say this. I think America is the greatest country in the world. This is where I am. I'm a real American. I'm not even going to back down off that ever. I think it's the greatest. I've been 21 countries, and I'm telling you, I like this. Okay, now, inside of that, though, we got a whole bunch of internal problems that had to be dealt with. And a lot of it starts with the things that both of you guys have mentioned. I think what's happening right now, though, is a lack of self control and discipline amongst the people themselves. I don't think you can blame the government for every response that we're seeing right now. Some things you got to have good sense in. Some things you got to have some self awareness in. Some things you have to take accountability for. And you have to be able to carry out those things that's called being an adult, being a responsible human being. There are a lot of things that are happening right now that that's worldwide that's horrible. And I agree. That's why I say I agree with you with a lot of stuff. I think it's horrible. But I think we as people count on the government too much. I think we don't take enough responsibility for what we're looking for and what we want. And I think it's the biggest cop out in the world, no matter where we are. I think it's
Mhm.
horrible for us to expect the government to take care of you completely, and we're not doing the fundamental things to take care of yourself. Well, look at us.
Right.
We overeat, we overdrink. The gluttonous thing is America didn't make you gluttonous. Rome didn't make you gluttonous. Spain didn't make you gluttonous. You know what I mean? I'm just using that
Mhm.
for an example. We do that stuff to ourselves. We, I look at, I look at us as people and people in general. There's never been a greater time to be educated, and we're the dumbest we ever been in our lives.
Hmm.
Think about that. Never been a
Absolutely.
time you got more access to education and opportunity,
Right.
and we are the dumbest that we ever been in our lives. So
Yeah.
that lack of self responsibility, along with what the government's not doing, yeah, makes it a horrible ass environment right now. But I
Mhm.
know
Right.
when we talk about civil unrest, my fear is really not against the government. My fear is against the guy around the corner, the guy up the street who
Right.
didn't
Mm.
put and apply himself like I did, the guy who didn't put forth the effort to be prepared. I'm more worried about them at this level right now than I am anything else, because it's funny how people choose when they want to have unrest and they don't want to be civilized. I've seen communities being torn up by the people in their communities when they could have went 10 miles up the road and went to another community that they say causes the problem that they have. No, we got. I think. I think both you guys said is very valid. I think it's true. It's true to all of it in a sense. But I think if we don't take care of ourselves and we don't take care of the ones that are around us, that's where the fall will come. Because what's
Mhm.
going to happen when you have the have and have nots, there's a reason they the halves. It's a reason somebody's the have nots. So
Right.
now you can't choose to be a have not and then wonder how come the have don't give you nothing. You
Right.
can't choose to be
Right.
a have not and wonder how come you can't get half of the halves. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I got
got
to sign them
I
off
want
with
to
that.
just
Ain't illegal
read a little bit out of this book called Torchlight for America, right? So I just a little pushback because I do absolutely agree that there has to be some self-responsibility. I do think, however, that we have absolute corruption in the
yet. Oh yeah,
government across the board, as far as the FDA, the EPA, the CDC, and you can name it. They have all sold. I think they've all uh, done a not a neglectful job. I think that they've just sold out the corporate interests. And I'll just read just a little bit of this. It says the fundamental motivation in this society is greed and the preying upon the weak of the country and the weak of the world versus sharing wealth in cooperation with the weak and the poor. Greed is defined as self desire for possession and, and wealth beyond reason. When greed is exercised in this society, it is reflected by division among the people. So I think that, one of the things that the minister was talking about is that in the government, you have greed, inordinate self interest. You know what I'm saying? So I think
I
that a
agree.
lot of what we have as far as the dissatisfaction that's growing is they're just things that just cannot be explained. I mean, how is it that you have this homeless rate that is just literally out of control in the richest country on the planet Earth? You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think that
Oh,
I
I
agree
agree
with
100%.
that. There definitely needs to be some self discipline. However, I put a lot of it on government and how it allows certain things to be taught to the people.
Now I agree with that. Now, don't misunderstand. I'm not saying. I think anywhere there's big money, there's corruption. That's how I got big money.
Right.
I believe that. So I'm not disregarding that at all. But I'm even
Right.
saying with our voices, we don't even when you have an opportunity to really make a difference, you choose not to make a difference. So, like you mentioned about the homeless thing, last time we got together, I talked about where they
Yeah.
said $20 billion could cure the homeless problem this year. Well, we gave almost $100 billion to another country to support a war.
Exactly.
So, I mean, so that goes back on us then. But I'm talking about responsibility because we, the people, need to say, hell no. Don't take
Hmm.
don't take $100 billion sent to another country. Feed my guy down the street from me. And see, I think that's a people problem. See, we
Hmm.
stand we got selective stand up. I'm
Hmm.
saying let's make it right across the board. If you're tired of something, be tired then. Don't be tired. Don't be tired Tuesday and then Friday you you know what I mean you feel better Friday.
Right.
No, no.
Hmm.
Don't let a stimulus check. Don't let a stimulus check fool you and make you think you have arrived.
Hmm.
Don't do that. And so
Right.
I can't blame nobody but the mirror for that.
Hmm. Well, it says that if you all remember, there was a movie that came out, Civil War, in mid-April.
Yeah.
The
I saw
movie
it.
insinuated. Oh, what'd you say?
I saw it. I saw the
Okay,
movie.
I didn't.
Mhm.
I haven't seen it. Well, before I go ahead and read some more because it goes straight into something else. What was your critique of the movie?
I thought the movie showed what could be possible if a certain amount of people decided to be a certain way. So I didn't think the movie was far fetched like it couldn't happen that way.
Hmm.
But so I see certain sectors of people who can respond just like they did in the movie. You have to see it. It's better than what you think. You have to look at it
Okay.
beyond just the picture. You know what I mean? If you
Hmm.
look at and this goes back to what you were talking about, just the ideology of the country and the world and different sectors of the country. So what I think the movie did not do, it didn't cover enough sectors of the country to show how broad certain things might be reacted to. But I actually thought the movie had a whole bunch of valid things in it.
Hmm.
Not saying I agree with it, but I thought it had a bunch of valid things, and I could see people responding that way, acting that way. So to me, it what it really depicted was from one lens
Hmm.
of how
Yeah.
they might how things may play out. It wasn't broad enough to show you all the other stuff, but what you have to do is not be narrow minded and just say, okay, yeah, I can see somebody acting that way. I can see it going down like that.
Mhm. All right. And so, yeah, it says that the movie depicted the real issue in the U.S. is militia groups composed of armed citizens. Is that what you
And
saw
see,
as far as the
so
movie?
that's why I said it came at it from one angle. Yeah, that's what you heard
Okay,
me just say. It came at it from one angle. So
right.
that's what I mean by that. So what it
Mm,
showed was like you would have militia who would just go buck wild and be able to run amok and do whatever they wanted to do. That's why I see you had to have an open mind and look at it because I don't necessarily think a militia is that bad, especially depending on what
right.
it stands. So that's why if somebody who looked at it with a closed, the third eye was closed. If they
Hmm.
look at it with a closed third eye, that's exactly what you said. That's exactly how they would take it. If you opened your
Hmm.
mind and you said to yourself, well, there's a section of people here that's just like that. So it
Right.
didn't cover a broad spectrum. So yeah, so that's part of what it depicted. Yeah, that was heavy.
And isn't militias constitutional?
Yeah,
Yeah. Under
that's
posse
why I said
comitatus.
right. That's
Hmm.
why I said it depicted it from a certain viewpoint, and it
Right.
attacked that viewpoint or went from that viewpoint only. It wasn't broad
Mhm.
enough where so somebody who suffered from naivete or ignorance would look at that and take it, oh man, this is exactly what it is. Somebody who would free their mind and let their ass follow, excuse my French, wouldn't look at it
Mhm.
that way. So yeah, so I mean, I found it somewhat entertaining. I know there's a section of people that just like was depicted in the movie, and then I know there's several different sections that weren't. So it was nothing I took to heart, but
Right.
I understood whoever directed and produced it. I understood how they looked at it, and that's just what it was.
All right.
I see.
It says,
I don't see
go ahead.
where they're getting the militia viewpoint from, because I saw it twice, and I watched
Mm.
halfway through the third time. And what I saw, unless they're calling the entire military of a state a militia, I
Mm.
saw a certain number of states come together to fight against another group of states, and the one force was winning, and the force that was losing was the president's army, and he kept putting out false directives saying that they were winning when they were clearly losing the battle. Those were
Mm.
organized military forces that rolled in there, not some back in the woods local militia group.
Right.
So I don't even know where they got that from. But let me be
Mm.
the voice of reason here and
Yeah,
get
go
us
ahead.
back. We're getting too far away from the topic here. Okay.
Sure.
Uh, Government right now is definitely preparing for a post-election violence.
Mm.
That's the reason why they're going to hold up announcing the winner till 4 days after it happens. And there's two times, as I talked with Sanford about this earlier, there's two times that the attack or violence can occur. It can occur at the time of the presidential announcement, or they can wait to the inauguration day, which is January 20th of 2025. When the new president takes office, violence can break out then. And I don't think nobody wants any violence to occur between November and December, because those are the key months for the retail stores to make their money right now. I mean,
Right.
the US government would prefer to get the Israelis to wait on attacking whoever they're going to attack until January,
Mhm.
but I already know they're not going to do it. In fact, this evening, they've already started their attack on
Mm.
selective targets right now. And the
Mhm.
US government announced today worldwide, this announcement went out because they got wind that there was going to be some sort of organized protests and stuff that could turn into riots that was coming out over the internet. And they asked
Mhm.
for all Americans to avoid them, not to get involved with them, even if they appear to be peaceful, stay out of them. And then they also suggested that everybody be aware of their surroundings right now. And I think
Mhm.
that's key. I mean, to me, there's a storm coming. We're like the people down in Florida. We got 10 days notice or 12 days notice of an approaching storm. Now, when it gets here, it could be a nothing burger. I mean, it could be absolutely nothing. And that's fine with
Mhm.
me. I want things to be peaceful. But what if it's not? And that's the
Right.
question for people in the preparedness community. We always have to ask the question, what if? And then what is our
Mhm.
response going to be to it? And the best thing to do is to shelter in place, not to go out there and participate in this stuff.
Right.
So, and I'm going
Yeah.
to tell you this too. FEMA right now is expecting a mass casualty event.
Mm.
They're also expecting loss of the power grid and civil unrest. Now, the law enforcement is being told to expect blackouts, and they're being told to prepare for civil unrest. So law
Mhm.
enforcement is blackouts of civil unrest, FEMA mass casualty event, power grid going down or blackouts, and civil unrest. So
Mhm.
everybody's expecting something to happen. And that's
Right.
the reason why we need to get a message out to the people that just in case where we see the storm coming, like I said, it could be nothing, but what if it is
Mhm.
something? Do you want to be out there
Right.
trying to acquire resources in the middle of riots and civil unrest? Or do you want to be able to hunker down in the safety of your home and stay away from those problems and those troubles that's going to be out there and keep your
Right.
family safe and away from that kind of trouble?
And I
So,
think we talked, I think
Go
we
ahead.
talked, and it wasn't during a program, but one of the things that you, spoke of when we spoke last time is that there are a lot of items that you just won't be able to get. They're disappearing off of the shelves. So
You're
it
right.
would be wise for those who are listening to this program to begin to prepare their homes now, to prepare their homes yesterday, because you definitely don't want to go out if there's any type of civil unrest or anarchy taking place, especially for women. And I'll say this right now: America has really become a moral cesspool. And it, through OnlyFans and free porn, and now it allows, women to just walk around in these tight spandex pants. If there is some type of civil unrest and you have rolling blackouts or just blackouts, period, then women need to take uh, special precaution and definitely do not go out at night. So these are some of the things definitely that, we just need to put out there so that people can think of and prepare. But yeah, go right ahead if you all want to say anything more to that.
I'd like to
Uh,
add something at this point. That's the reason why today I want to put out a message of 14 items that people need to prioritize now between now and the election. If you can acquire some of these things, great. I like to read through the list, and then the three of
sure.
us can dissect the list and go back and cover any particular areas. None of
Hmm.
these is in order except for water and food. Those are your number one, number two items. Off grid cooking supplies, heating, at least some sort of way to be able to heat indoor in the event of a blackout. You're going to have lighting. You're going to have batteries, some sort of emergency toilet, because if the power grid goes down, water's not going to be coming to your house. First aid kits, pharmacy meds, and then meds that treat symptoms. You're going to want to stockpile some of that. You're going to have some sort of backup power and fuel, backup fuel for it to power your generators, whether they're solar, wind, or gas or propane. You're going to want to have alternative forms of communication because if cyber attack happens, communication is going to go down. You're going to need something that's to communicate with your loved ones outside of cell phones. You're going to need some sort of forms of self defense, both lethal and non lethal. You're going to want to have the ability to be able to do something with garbage because it's going to start to mount up. The garbage truck isn't going to be coming. I know if I was a garbage worker and fighting's going on out there and people shooting, I'm not having them shoot at me. I'm not going out there. Uh,
Right.
then ladies' hygiene products. I mean, most
Hmm.
people would overlook that, but that's going to be key. If you have a young child, young babies around the house, you're going to need baby supplies. And the last item that I'm going to mention here, I'm going to mention because the day after the last hurricane that hit Florida, the day after, I had friends down there told me that there was 5 gas stations that had
Mm.
gas. The rest of them were out, and lines were stretching for miles. And some people wanted to get into fist fights and stuff because they're trying to button line and stuff. Gas up your car. Don't be
Hmm.
if you have to bug out. Don't be sitting there with an empty car. At least have a half a tank of gas or more because if it's a 2005 or newer and you maintain that car well, you can go 170 miles in any given direction. But if you're sitting there almost on empty, you're going to be stuck on the highway somewhere with nowhere to go. And that's the wrong place to be. But if you guys want to go
Hmm.
back over that list, then I would like to cover some more of it.
Sure.
I'd entertain that.
Yeah,
So,
that's
I
a good
mean,
list. And yeah,
yeah,
let's just go through it. Like you said, water, 1
yeah.
gallon per person, uh, per day. And at least 3 to 7 days, we should have supplies. Um, of course, if you can do at least 3 months, I would try to do 3 months for real, seriously. Um, like you said, non-perishable foods. one of the things too is that with the non-perishable foods, some people may go get canned food. If you go get canned food, do not depend on an electric can opener to open those cans up. Make sure you get you a manual can opener, because one of the things that we talked about was the blackouts, and those blackouts could be due to sabotage of the power grid. And this has been seen in the past where people have attacked power grids and caused the grid to collapse. But another thing that you have to take into consideration is that we're heading into the winter months. So not only do you need to prepare yourself to shelter in place, but you need to prepare yourself to shelter in place in winter, which means that you need to uh, know how to build you a micro environment. And that's an environment that you can pick in your home, preferably somewhere in the back so people don't see your lights on and things like that, where you can, keep heat at least in that one home. There's an excellent propane tank called Mr. Heater that you can actually light inside, and the fumes won't take you over and kill you, because a lot of people during these blackouts will run a generator, and the fumes from that generator, even if you have it in the garage, those fumes can seep into your home, and before you know it, you're slowly falling asleep and you will not wake up. So yeah, we can just roll with it as just conversate. You all go ahead and jump in anytime you want.
Did you want
One
to
of the
say
things
something,
all
Sam? Because I definitely want to cover a few more things. Did you want to say something, Sam?
sure.
Well, I was just thinking about some daily things that I think last time we talked, the time before, I talked about things I'm buying like weekly or bi-weekly. You know,
Mm,
Yeah.
um, I encourage people now to buy batteries, have flashlights, different kind of lighting. You can have the lighting that's like a lantern, that style lighting, regular flashlights, batteries, matches. Have yourself a couple of lighters on hand. Make sure you got bathroom tissue, which is something people
mm,
don't think about. They don't keep enough of sometimes. Hand sanitizer. You want to make sure you have a whistle on hand, duct tape, glow sticks, which you can crack in half, and they'll show you some form of light. Hand warmers, because we're talking about winter time now. So hand
hmm.
warmers, I keep them in my car. I got a bag in my trunk that I have several things in. Um, and blankets, things as simple as that. Have blankets in your house, extra blankets in your house you can maintain. And I think Aaron said something earlier about medicines. I was
Hmm.
talking to a couple of friends of mine, and one had to go see a doctor recently, and she told him, well, she didn't need the medicine they was giving her a prescription for. And I said, next
Mm.
time they offer you that, you don't have to take it as in physically take it, but you get it and you hold on to it in case you need
That's
it
right.
later on, in case of an emergency, or somebody else might need it. So things like that, those things that we see every day we pass in the store that you can buy a few at a time. You can buy extra tube of toothpaste. You know what I mean? You can buy yourself,
Mhm.
you can buy yourself a whistle, that you might need in case of emergency. So little everyday
Mhm.
things like that. I call them everyday things because we walk by them every day and we don't think about it till it becomes like a necessity that we had to have. But those things that
Mhm.
don't cost a lot of money, if we can start stocking up on those things and buying them a little bit at a time, that'd be so helpful. And
Right.
I'd rather have more of than not to have not enough of.
Hmm. And you make up a
Yeah.
good point as far as the prescription medicine. It would be, if you can get a 3 month supply, sometimes you can get a 3 months. You can ask your healthcare uh, physician to give you a prescription for 3 months, if possible. Another thing is when talking about those who may need special medical care is that you definitely want to have some type of generator if they're dependent on a machine keeping them alive or doing some type of service for them, then they're definitely going to need to have some type of backup a power supply. Another thing that may need to be talked about is first aid kit. I mean, one of the things that we can overlook in all this disaster preparedness is a simple first aid kit, and that's very important. So, is it hydrogen peroxide?
Yep.
Just little items like that are necessary. But I wanted to touch really on, and I'm gonna put this up and make sure you all can see it. And this is a radio. It's a hand crank. You can hand crank it. It also, if you can see, it has a solar panel on it, and it has a light. A light source on it. I mean, you can get these radios for relatively inexpensive. And so, if there's any type of civil unrest that takes place, you definitely want to stay in tune with your national and local news, because if it gets out of hand and they tell you to evacuate, then that's the time that you have your to-go bag ready, and you get to a place that's safe. So I just wanted to throw that in there, but you all go right
Okay.
ahead.
Steve, can you put me on the wide screen?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to show this. This is Aquamare water treatment.
Mm,
It's got two bottles in it, part A and a part B. You mix those parts together in a glass jar or a drinking glass, and you let them wait for about 10 minutes. The liquid, when they mix and they mix properly, should look almost a yellow tint. Pour it in whatever container you got, fill that container up, and this will keep the water good for 5 years. It
mm,
keep algae and different stuff from growing in it so long as you're keeping it out of the sun and stuff. But this is worth having because when it comes down to water, you need to be able to know how to store it, which just makes that possible. You need how to purify it. This makes that possible. And then
mm,
you'll be able to locate additional sources of where you could go fill it back up at. When it comes down to food, you want to start off with a 2 week goal, have at least 2 weeks. And once you reach 2 weeks now, you want to build for 30 days, from 30 days to 3 months, from 3 months to 6 months, etc. But you want to keep building that pantry up to where you can go longer and longer in your house. Off-grid cooking supplies, that electric stove is not going to work. You're going to need a gas grill, a regular grill. You can get a Coleman camp stove that has two burners and it
mm, mm,
works off of these Coleman propane fuel cells. They're 1 pound cells, and you can get about 4 hours of cooking time off of them on high, but they go longer if you have it on a low temperature setting. Lighting, flashlights, lanterns, candles, oil lamps, etc. But anytime you're dealing with candles, oil lamps, even in emergency heating, fireplace or a some type of propane heat or something, you want to have a CO2 alarm system handy that will pick up if your house is picking up too much CO2. It's going to be like
mhm,
a fire alarm. It's going to let you know so that you can open a window or do whatever you have to do to air some of that CO2 out and get on whatever device it is that's creating that buildup of CO2. Heating indoor, I like these.
mhm.
These are big buddy heaters. The one I got right there is the bigger one. It runs off of two of these cells,
Yep.
or you can get the adapter hose and run it off of a 20-pound gas grill uh, propane tank. And
Mhm.
man, it runs a long time, like 40 something hours off of the propane tank.
Yeah.
But you want to have some sort of indoor heating system that can be used with backup fuel. Batteries, that would be your choice. But what I do recommend is you go to Home Depot. This is called a battery caddy, or what they call a battery daddy. It
Mm-hmm.
holds different types of batteries, and it's handy to have instead of having those batteries all separate or having them grouped up. And if one bursts, it causes the rest of them to go bad because the acid leaks onto the other batteries. As you can see, the batteries in these are kept separated from each other to prevent that type of accident from happening. Even on the
Mm-hmm.
back, they're separate so that bleed over won't happen. And anytime you're dealing with any sort of backup fuels, you want to have these on
Yep.
hand because fire
Absolutely.
department will be a coming. So whatever you do, don't forget to have between 2 to 4 of these inside the house. This is a must-have item if you're burning
Mm-hmm.
fireplace or any sort of thing inside the house. You're going to have to get an emergency toilet. You can take a regular plastic chair, cut the center out. I posted a video of it on my Facebook page, and you stick a bucket down into it and take your toilet seat off the toilet and attach it to that, and that would give you a porta john,
Yeah.
so to say. But along with emergency toilets, you want to have other toiletries on hand, bars of soap, alcohol, toilet paper, but you got to
Mm-hmm.
have toothpaste, soap, and toilet and alcohol because you're going to have to be able to clean your body. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
all those diseases that alcohol and soap ended that were skin diseases, they'll make a comeback on you inside your house. The first aid kit, pharmacy meds to stock up on, and
Mm-hmm.
any sort of meds that give relief. I mean, if it a lot of times the symptoms will kill you before the disease will. So if you have something that can treat cold and flus and different things, give people relief, and even you can contact Jace Medical and get your Jace kit in so that you will have antibiotics to be able to treat people with. Backup power, any sort of generator you got, plus fuel if it's a fuel generator. If not, it's solar. You don't need that. Communications, CB, ham, GMRS radios are excellent to use. Self defense, lethal and non lethal. You're going to have pepper spray and stuff as part of your non-lethal, but you may also have to have firearms and be
Let me
proficiently trained in. Go ahead.
So I definitely want you to complete that list. I just wanted to jump in on a few of those excellent items that you letting us know that we should definitely have. And I wanted to say, for instance, the propane. Man, if you can get you some propane tanks, they are excellent as far as to be even to be able to store them. They're a little safer than storing 5-gallon
Kerosene,
gas tanks.
yeah,
The
kerosene.
propane also can be kerosene, right? And the propane
Mhm.
can be used for so many different things. So, for instance, like you said, it could be used for your heater, your propane heater. But it also, if you have outside and you have a grill out there, and it runs off of propane, and the electric, you have an electric stove. Well, there you go. You can still, cook some food. You just light your propane grill up and cook with that. So moving forward, I think that what we have to think now moving forward is any item that we purchase, is it an item that we can use dual use, and is it an item that we can use for disaster preparedness or emergency preparedness? Another thing that you talked about, two things actually, was toilet paper and rubbing alcohol. If you have at least 70% rubbing alcohol, you can, get you that toilet paper, put it in a canister, metal canister, pour some of that rubbing alcohol on there, and you can light it. Of course, you need to definitely be safe, but you can light it and it will burn for a long time, just like those what is it called, steno cans
Colonel
that you
Steno.
see
It's
use
called
at
Steno.
some of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And those are also some things that you may want to even stock up on as well. And so I just wanted to chime in on those items, some of those items that you named. But go right ahead.
Then garbage. How are you going to handle your garbage? And it's going to mount up. You're going to have rats everywhere if you're not
Mm,
careful. I mean, you can bury 35-gallon galvanized trash can down into the ground, and you can actually burn trash in that if you had to, unless you had a 55-gallon drum, and then that would give you a chance to try to dispose of it. Otherwise, you're going to be stacking up bags, and then on top of that, you need to have a certain amount of 55-gallon contractor bags put back so that you can store some of that trash until things get back to normal. uh, Ladies' hygiene products, tampons and the napkins. Those also make great pressure bandages and being able to plug up holes in you if you got bullet holes in the event that they're non-deodorized. They cause clots and they help you stop bleeding. Baby supplies. I mean, where are you going to
hmm
get diapers at? Even in hurricanes, diapers is one of the most sought after things because nobody can find them. But also, so are baby wipes. Baby wipes can also be used as improvised toilet paper if you had to. You can even wipe and clean your body with baby wipes. And again, like I
hmm
said, gas up your car. I'd be filling up my spare gas cans right now. And I'd also be putting stable in it just to keep the gas good for 2 years.
And let me
But
chime
right
in once
now,
again
go ahead.
with the baby diapers, for instance. You know, if we can get some of those 55-gallon drums, and I know, I know last program, Mr. Brother Sanford, you were talking about, storing water, but if you can get some of those 55-gallon drums and you run out of diapers, you can just do like mom and pa used to do and use some rags and just use that rainwater to wash them. That's something that you can use. But also, one of the things that you can think about is, and I just wanted to say this to any of the women who are out there, America and some Western societies have so domesticated us that we don't, as women, they don't want to lose their form by breastfeeding. When push comes to shove, that breast milk is going to be better than that. It's better than the formula anyway. So, that's something that, as women, is something to really consider if are opposed to, or you have been put off by, you know, commercialization. Breastfeeding is the ticket, and your baby will be healthy as long as you're healthy. And even if you're not healthy, breast milk is still better than some of the other alternatives that are out there. But yeah, go right ahead, brother. You can go into
Well,
some more of
again, like
that.
I said, those 14 things are the most important right now. Time is getting short, and if you can cover those 14 items, that's going to give you a good chance of being able to last in your property for a period of time, hopefully until orders reinstilled and reinstored, whatever. But the bottom line right now is anytime you see the government preparing for something, I think it would be a prudent person to think, well, maybe I need to prepare too. So I'll stop right there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would also try to, stock up on some M95 face mask. One of the things that you want to be careful of is if there's some type of terrorist attack, biological or chemical. You definitely want to have, if you can purchase a mask, that would even be better. So that is just something. And I know that what we might be saying sounds extreme, but we're dealing with some very extreme times. I want to check this out. What this says, it says that the US population is little over 330 million. US citizens poses an estimate number of 393 million firearms. According to a 2008 small arms survey, US law enforcement and military account for only 5.5 million firearms in the country. In total, almost 40% of the world's firearms are in the hands of the US. That's a lot of firearms. And so, that's once again, if civil unrest breaks out, it could be something that would spread like wildfire, especially with these elections. And people are already polarized. They are either going to be for Trump or they're going to be for Kamala. And the rhetoric really that's coming out of both of their mouths is really putting just fuel on the fire, if you will, for something explosive to happen after the elections are read off. So yeah, I would definitely start to prepare your home. Another thing that we could look at having in our home that we may not even think of is books and board games. I know that we like to play, the Nintendo or the Xbox or whatever. However, once again, if the electricity is off, the board games can come into play, and there are some excellent board games out there that can definitely occupy your time. Get you hardback books because if you have all of your books on these devices, you may not be able to have access to them. And books are an excellent way to pass the time. When you can't watch a movie, that good old book. And I know once again, that's something that, you know, it's something that we've gotten away from, but it's excellent, something excellent to have. Um,
I
how
mean,
about
this
the
list that I have,
One thing I want to say,
mhm,
don't forget too, just about relationships.
mm,
In the event anything happens, you can forget. It's easy to forget you got a spouse in the house. You know what I mean? And so, as you mentioned, the board games, my mind went to, freshly married, so my mind went to naughty time. So don't don't forget that your spouse still needs certain kind of attention. You know, uh, very few people have playing cards anymore. So you can
mhm,
play euchre, you could play poker, you could play strip tonk, if you got a wife or a husband and you're happy. Yeah. So don't forget, don't forget you gotta still maintain some human interaction within the home,
that's true.
within, with each other. And you may not have an entire family. It may just be you and your significant other. Well, don't forget they're your significant other also. And that's just
Hmm.
for your mindset. The mind's a terrible thing to waste. So
Right.
I want to just expound upon that. I know in future shows, I know we're talking about doing some workshops and stuff. One of the
Yes.
shows I want to cover what we call unconventional weapons. So we'll get to that at a
Yes.
later time. But it some things other than firearms that can be used, um, that might be able to help you in certain instances that you can have on your person. I'll let you brothers take over from there.
No, that's good. That's real good. And I wanted to chime in on that as well. Um, when you talked about the significant, oh, I know what I wanted to say. The sheltering in place. I know during the pandemic, a lot of problem with the pandemic is not people weren't getting enough sunshine. There's what's called during winter, it's called SAD, seasonal immune deficiency disease, I think, or SAD. And that's when you don't get enough sunshine. So even if you are sheltering in place, one of the things that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to get that good old vitamins from the sun. And there's been experiments where without that sunlight it does cause depression, anxiety. So get out, get some sunshine, some fresh air, but just be aware of your environment. And I wanted to say too, moving forward from this point on, usually when we step out our door, we are in a green mode, right? We feel, feels relatively safe. But I would say in today's climate, always be aware of your environment. Always be aware of your environment. Know where the exits are when you go into a building. If you're a man, please sit facing the door, seeing people come in. Don't have your back facing the door and your wife looking at the door. You you
Mm.
look at the door. And if there is any type of mass shooting, get down low, close to the wall, and try to slide your way out. Do not get up and run because the hunter's eye is going to follow that moving object and is going to try to shoot at that object that it sees moving. Just like a dog, when you run, it's wanting to chase you. So just be mindful of some of these things that we're talking about and share them with your family. Begin to practice certain disaster preparedness. Make sure that your children know your number, because many of us, we have these cell phones and we just swipe and hit mom, but we should definitely know our children's number by heart, and our children should know our number by heart. But there's so much that we can go into. And like you were saying, Brother Sanford, is that we definitely will have to sectionalize a lot of this and just do workshops on it. So we want those who are watching, if you want to learn more about these upcoming workshops, join our Patreon site. You can join it for free. However, it would be best if you join for whatever tier that we have that you can afford, and then that way you will also be able to get certain items that we can give those who are members of the site, and it funds the program, which is a win-win for everybody. So with that, is there anything else more that you all wanted to add to it?
Yeah, I've got a closing statement I want to make, and that
Sure.
is there's a possible storm is coming. And what you have to ask yourself is, what are you doing to prepare for it? And once it gets here, the time to prepare has ended. And I'll
Mhm.
stop there.
Yeah, that's good. Brother, brother Sanford, you wanted to have any closing
Uh,
comments?
I I'm always gonna say this. My mother had a saying. I was 19 years old. She called me in the kitchen, and she said, "Son, there's no such thing as common sense." And I looked at her because her whole life everybody says use common sense. She said, "Let me tell you what I mean." She said, "Don't ever forget this." She said, "There's no such thing as common sense because everything ain't common amongst everybody. So in life, son, you should always use good sense."
Mm,
So I wanted to part by saying I want people to use good sense. Use good sense.
mhm.
You know, look at what you see, listen to what you hear, but use good sense.
Absolutely. And I wanted to just, I guess as I close out, one of the things I wanted to touch on was get to know your neighbors, get to know your neighbors, build some type of relationship with them if you already have it. You might be surprised, and allow them to look out for you and you to look out for them. Or you might find that you may need to look out for them, if you understand what I'm saying. So, get to know some of your neighbors, and if push comes to shove and you have some salt and they have some eggs or something like that, do some bartering, because we just don't know how long, if civil unrest breaks out, how long that might go. It may be an extended period of time with a lot of infrastructure damage. And if there's any type of infrastructure damage, then you're not going to get the supplies that you would normally get, and that includes food. So this is why we're saying that you have to begin to stock your homes with non-perishable food items and water. Those two are vital. Also, it would be wise to take out some cash. Have some cash on you. Um, you know, if the banks are the same things that happen with the banks, you may not be able to get any money out of the banks. So think about having a certain amount of cash on you, that you can use that as a bartering tool as well. But with that, if you all have nothing else, we can go ahead and close it on out.
See you next week. Same time, same channel, baby.
I thank you, brothers. I really appreciate, all of the information that you're sharing with those who are watching, and also we'll put this in a podcast for those who want to listen to it. And so, thank you all. May God continue to bless you and your family with the light of truth. And we'll sign on out. God bless.